Hi, and welcome back to my little corner on the internet. As we can see, I'm holding a stack of books that I really like. I am practically remastering my first ever video that I posted on here, and that is sort of my favorite books of all time, books that kind of changed my life in a way, or just, I guess, books that really truly I love a lot. Before we get into the video itself, I wanted to again say that we now have channel memberships available for this channel, which I set up recently and I'm very excited about it. So if you wanted to get early access to videos, extra content, and a bunch of other little perks, you can check down below all the little details and join us, which can be really fun, and it's a fun way to, if you want to provide a little extra support to the channel. I really love and appreciate you guys, and to everyone who has joined so far, I love you guys. Anyways, I think we'll just get straight into it. I'm not wearing any concealer today. I just thought I'd embrace the eye bag, so if at any time I look kind of tired and sick of everything, I am not. That's just how I'm built. Anyways, and also a reminder that because these are books that I am very attached to, I have mentioned these so many times already. I've been talking about books on here for just over a year now, so if you've been sticking along since the beginning, you're not gonna hear anything that new and exciting. But I wanted to make this video again because this channel has grown a lot since then, and also because that was my first video and I feel like I can provide a slightly higher quality version of it. So I'm going to do that. Anyways, let's just get straight into it. I have a stack of 8 books, and yes, we're just gonna get right into them. Hi. First, we're going to begin with The Waves by Virginia Woolf. This book I hold so close to my heart. There are books in my life that I have read multiple times. This I haven't. I've only read it once, even though I do intend to read it again. But it still remains one of my favorite books ever. I remember my mom found this. Someone just had given this and a copy of Mrs. Dalloway up for free. And she found it because she heard I mentioned that I wanted to get into Virginia Woolf. And boom, I read this. And my little, how old was I? My 16-year-old brain? 15, 16? I'm not sure. 15, 16-year-old brain shifted. This was just, it's such a defining book in my life as a person and as a reader. Like with a lot of Virginia Woolf's writing, it is a lot of sort of stream of consciousness. Sorry. It's a lot of stream of consciousness, and it follows this group of friends who experience the loss of one of their friends, and it explores a lot of, you know, the dynamics of friendship and your identity and comparison and growing up. And it was so beautifully well done. There's so much emotional depth throughout this book, and I think reading it as such a young person, as a 15, 16-year-old who was also growing up and dealing with these sort of similar issues and problems of friendships and identity, I thought this was such a quintessential book to experience. And I have a few tabs. Why? Intervention for a second. Thank you. Why was I putting my sticky tabs so far out of the book? You know, a lot of these I just kind of put the tabs in. I was still a bit afraid to write into my books. So I would just put arrows as to where I wanted to. I don't even know. But I absolutely love this book. And I think if you are a young person, even if you're not, because we are always dealing with human relationships, no matter what kind. This is such a beautiful, emotional book to experience. And it's such a captivating book. I love this book so much. And Woolf's writing is just so eloquent. It's just gorgeous. Anyways, next on the stack is the very popular classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I read this twice in a year. Was it last year? Oh my gosh. Passing time is crazy to me. This little classic is so good. It's not so much that, you know, I was so emotionally attached, but it was more so I was very captivated by the characters, its concept, and how it was executed. I was so completely enraptured by the atmosphere and its plot line that it's just, sometimes you just crave this book again. if you've read it and you love this book, I think you might understand that feeling that you crave the picture of Dorian Gray specifically. It follows a man who basically sells his soul for eternal youth and beauty, but in exchange from that, all of his rotting insides and, I guess, character are seen through the shifting and changes of his portrait, which becomes uglier and uglier. And it is such a well done way of exploring sort of vanity and all of that. And I just thought it was so well done. I think classic literature and the language in this, especially Wilde's writing, is just so gorgeous. I love this book. It's just so good. Yeah. Next, we have none other than probably my most reread book. I've read this book 4 times, and it is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Sorry, I will never shut up about this book. I don't know what it is. I think she put crack in it. Maybe she lined the pages with some drug and it gets you addicted to it somehow. I don't, but yeah, 4 times. Every year I read this book, and honestly, I was on the verge of reading it for a second time this year. It's so, when I say it out loud, it seems even more absurd than I have pictured it to be. But if you don't know it, it follows a group of students at this small college in Vermont, and it follows these very exclusive group of students studying classics and ancient Greek, and they murder their classmate Bunny, and the whole story just kind of follows the memories and the retelling of how they got away with it. It is insane. It's so well done. And there are many theories that you can get into with this book. There's so many details that you can dig up every time you read this book again. And it's just a masterpiece in the way that it built up these characters, the way it conjured an atmosphere and debated all these ideas about class and academia, intellectualism, relationships, love, everything. Like, it's Camilla, I love you. I am so sorry for everything that's happened. Bunny, you didn't really do anything wrong. Oh my gosh. I cry every time as well when I read this book. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. Like, nothing really can capture what this book makes me feel. So I love this book. I also bought the audiobook, which is also narrated by Donna Tartt herself, because she knew that there was a very specific way that this book had to be expressed and read out, and so she did it herself, and I am so glad that she did, because she has the most wonderful voice. And when there were times where I would just play the audiobook in bed and I would just fall asleep to her voice, and then I had to like sort of track back the next morning to see where I drifted off at, but the book. It's so good. And the next one is The Fran Lebowitz Reader by Fran Lebowitz herself. I don't think I've mentioned this book that many times, if I'm being quite honest, but it's a wonderful nonfiction essay collection piece, I guess. It combines her 2 novels, Metropolitan Life and Social Studies, and I wish I could somehow find the first editions of these 2 books somewhere, but Fran Lebowitz is a wonderful public figure, humorist, writer, as the 2 titles imply. There's a lot of sort of very hilarious yet well put together thoughts and perspectives on social culture, contemporary life, New York, art, everything. Is just, I was so completely enraptured by her writing and how witty and clever she is. And because I do love reading about New York and the way that she talks about life and the way she responds to things, it was so great. I remember when I was working at this little grocery store that it wouldn't get very busy, and I would bring this and I would keep it on the counter hidden so I could read some of it in between when it would get quiet. And I remember one person saw it, one of my customers noticed it, and I'm like, is that Fran Lebowitz, the intellectual? I was like, yeah. Oh my gosh, y'all know her? But yeah, every time I mention Fran Lebowitz, even though she is quite well known, I think most probably in America, but in the US. But I would have thought that maybe she would have been more known. But every time I mention her to my friends or anyone, people don't know who the fuck she is. But y'all need to get into that. I also love watching Fran's interviews, like old interviews, and her speaking at these sort of, I guess, speaker events and things like that. I'm actually so devastated that she actually came to Brisbane to do like a show, like a speaking show, where she would just be discussing things like she does. Like, she was on tour. And the one time that I had the opportunity, I could go see Fran Lebowitz live in person and experience that. And that was like the one moment in my life where I was moving away and I was actually going to New York. Oh my gosh, it annoys me to this day because who knows when that opportunity will rise again, but I am still mourning that. But it's a great book and I absolutely loved it. And I think reading this book kind of set me off into really wanting to get into more essay and nonfiction things and sort of having a more contemporary exploration of life and things. So, you know, people like Joan Didion as well, Habits, Gia Tolentino, I got into them as well after reading this. So I love that book. It's a great book. Moving on, I'm going to have to shine a light on Elena Ferrante, My Brilliant Friend. And I guess I'm mentioning My Brilliant Friend specifically because it's the first book from the quartet. Even though it's not my favorite out of the four, I think I owe it all to this book, really. Because if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have met the other three that really also made a big book-shaped hole dent in my life. This book, I think is so essential. It's unlike anything. It really paved the path to my love for this sort of literature, I guess. It begins at childhood with Elena and Lila, and they're living in this poor area of Naples, and it genuinely just follows their lives and them carving out their own identities and growing into themselves, and how I guess their geographical position in life and how class and violence and the politics of everything kind of impacts their existence and their lives and their families and everyone around them. And there was so much on friendship and how, you know, how a child can perceive friendship and relationship to someone so deeply and so beautifully, but there's so much flaw that is unafraid to be shown throughout this book, and it's an illuminating portrait of humans, of us being humans, and I just thought it was so wonderful. And after reading that book, I became very much obsessed with Elena Ferrante and reading the rest of it, and all those books made such a huge impact on me. I have such an emotional connection to all these characters, and I love it so much. Next, this is one I think people are gonna want to throw a fit at me in the comments for talking about this book once again, because at this point I feel like I pull out this book from my shelf to show it on camera and talk about it almost every single video. Sorry guys. But that is The Stranger by Albert Camus. I love absurdism and existentialism as a philosophy and things like that. I love reading about it. And after reading The Stranger for the first time when I was 18, I was 18. In my mind I was like, where have you been all my life? I loved this book. A man is completely overcome with existentialism and just decides to one day kill someone, just kill a man, just because nothing matters. And everything sort of unravels, and it's a really dark tale of this man's very absurdist thinking and mindset about life. And it's the perfect summer read. I read this book every year in the summer. It's my tradition for myself, and I love it so much because it is so insane and absurd, but it's so something about it. It feels like a hot sun just shining deep into you, and it forces you to just also debate, you know, does anything have meaning inherently, or do we assign it? Is that not absurd in and of itself, assigning meaning to an inherently meaningless world? You know, it was really great, and I really got into philosophy after reading it, and I love it. And it's actually one thing that really got me going. When I first read this book, I was slightly afraid to get into Camus because every video that I saw or anyone that mentioned this book would say that it's such a challenging book. It's like, oh, well, that's a choice to read. It is not that hard. I found it quite an easy book to read, language-wise and plot-wise, and how it unravels. I think it's mostly the contents of it that can be a bit hard-hitting, I believe. But yes, if you are interested in something, you know, a more philosophical novel of sorts, it's a great entry point. And I think I like reading it a lot and over again, and I mention it so much, is because it's so accessible, you know? I am very much aware that I'm not a whiz in philosophy and discussing that whatsoever, because I have much more to read, to look into and research for me to have the confidence to place that title upon myself. So I do think I need to expand my horizons in philosophical literature, but I adore that book so much. And I read a few other things by Camus as well, but that I always come back to The Stranger. Anyways, next, of course, I think this is such a huge book in many women's lives, and that is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Wow. I recently read this for the second time, and what can I say? It gets me. It really gets me spiraling in the best and worst way. It follows Esther, gets into this writing program in New York, and she just becomes extremely depressed and kind of spirals really, really badly and deeply. And a lot of this book is a lot of her thinking and of her dealing with these dark and horrible thoughts about her life and herself, and how these experiences with other people impact her, and it's just so well done. I am very much going to put a disclaimer out there as well, though, that if you are going to pick this up, because Sylvia Plath was also, despite her being such a literary marvel and a great writer, there are many parts of this book that are quite problematic in terms of her being very racist. But, you know, I'm able to acknowledge that, and every time I read those parts, it was kind of, oh, why did you say that? You did not have to say that, girl. But yeah, I absolutely love that book, and it did leave a fig tree shaped hole in my heart, as many of these books do. And then last but not least, I'm leaving this best for last, I would say. I actually had someone recently DM me and asking me about my favorite book, and I always say that book that always impacts me so much and that has impacted me so much is The Book of Goose by Yiyun. I don't know if it was the universe really just working its magic, but I had never heard of this book. I never heard of Yiyun before in my life, and I was just at this little indie bookshop on the coast years ago, and I was just browsing and I found this book and I was very intrigued, and I picked it up and I read it and my life changed. Similarly to novels like Elena Ferrante's Neapolitan Quartet, this also follows the recount and retelling of this woman's past memories of her life growing up with her best friend who has sadly passed away. And there's so much poetry in this. There's so much emotional depth, and this is basically the best book I've read that explores female friendship in the most perfect and raw and realistic way. And it has so much grief in it, but so much love and so much beauty. And I think it's the sort of book that when you read about these sort of topics and ideas, and when it's done in a way such as this, it kind of really forces you to reflect upon your own life and relationships and friendships that you have with your women friends. And I don't know, this really struck a chord with me, and sometimes when I just think about it, I kind of want to cry. It's so powerful. It was everything to me, and I knew in that moment that this is going to be you're in for the journey of a lifetime. But yes, that's my little reading stack. My favorite books of all time, books that kind of changed my life, books that are basically perfect to me, and they have really, really changed me as a person. And as you can tell, I have many thoughts on them carved in pen on the margins. But yes, I hope that you maybe got some recommendations and that you maybe enjoyed me just fangirling over these books. I don't know if I got into that much into them, but I just wanted to express my love and gratitude for all these books. And if you perhaps want to have a read of them, see what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts if you have read. These are just amazing. I'm happy to always mention them and give them a shout out in any video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this remastered version of my first ever video that I posted on here. We are nearing the end of the year, which is crazy, but I'm really glad everybody decided to join me over here. I'm happy to be here in this little corner, and I hope to keep making these videos and reading more and discussing more with everyone. And again, if you guys want to join the channel, have some more one-on-one interactions, I want to get into potentially doing maybe some live streams. I'm posting extra content on there, early access. You people who join get priority on video requests. You can help me pick thumbnails and all these little things. I just want to get even closer to you guys because that's fun. And I mean, why wouldn't you? Girl, come join us. I will see you guys next week with the next video, which I'm already filming. I'm in the process of filming next week's video, but it takes a couple days to get all the content that I need for that video conceptually. You'll see what I mean. next week. But yes, I hope you guys have a beautiful, magical, wonderful day. Follow me on Instagram to keep up with everything, and I will see you guys next week.